Hey, good morning. It's Friday, or Fry-yay maybe for you. And it's coffee time. So excited about today's coffee time with you because I thought it'd be really fun to shoot back and forth some questions and read your answers. And I'm going to share a story with you about one of the questions I'm going to answer for you too as well. So just before we get started here, I am just going to share this out to a few places. So good morning, Nico. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, good morning, Kevin. Cheers. I hope you're having coffee, guys. I'm actually having a caramelized honey coffee. I got a free bag from Michelle Wallach. I commented on a post of hers talking about the caramelized honey coffee, and she sent me a free bag because it's one of my favorite flavors. So that was super cool. So howdy, Kevin. Thanks so much for joining on. So I'm just going to, I want to share this out to one of my pages. So as everybody's coming on, hey Ron. Thanks for joining me. So as you're coming on live, would love for you to say hello in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. And hey, let me know if you're actually having a coffee with me, because that's how, you know, we get to know each other, is by joining each other for a talk over coffee. Okay, so just gonna share this. Hi, good morning. I don't know how to say your name. It starts with a Z. So Zerok maybe? I'm not sure. But thank you so much for joining me. Good morning. Cheers if you're having a coffee. And I'm just sharing this out while everybody's coming on. So good morning. Good morning, Paul. All right. Whoop. There we go. Okay. All right, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello. Good morning, Holly. Thanks so much for joining me. Good morning, Paul. So as you're coming on live, would love for you to, good morning, Daisy, Tracy. Put hello in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Let me know what beverage you're enjoying this morning. I'm really hoping it's a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of tea. Martina's in the kitchen making comments as well. She's homesick, unfortunately. Well, she's pretty good today, but she's had a cold with a sore throat. So she's taking it easy today. She's got some catching up to do at school, though.
I'll be fine.
You'll be fine? All right. So today, here on Coffee Talk, Coffee Time, we're going to talk about some questions. And if you had seen my post yesterday talking about today's coffee time, I had posted a question about where was the worst place that you were stuck for a long time. And so that's one of my first questions. So I would love for you to make a reply in the comments. And my question is, where is the worst place you have been stuck for a long time? So here's my answer, and it's a story that I will never forget. So for the very first time ever, I traveled by myself to my company's conference. And I had never traveled by myself. I had always been with somebody. So on my way back, I was in San Diego. And on my way back, I had a layover in San Francisco. I had never been into the San Francisco airport before, but it is enormous. If you've ever been to the San Francisco airport, let me know in the comments saying, I have been to San Francisco airport. And you know how big it is. Well, this was my my layover to catch a plane to come back to Toronto. And I had no idea, because it's so big, that I had to travel from one end to the other to catch my flight, not knowing that I had to go through customs as well. And my plane had landed and only had given me, I think it was a half an hour. I can't remember the exact time because it was a couple years ago now. But I just remember rushing to the one where I thought my plane was going to be, and then them telling me, no, you have to go through customs and then come back. getting to customs, realizing that the lady was helping me, telling me, you're going to miss your plane. And I just broke down. I started crying because I was just so upset, because I was thinking, okay, if I miss my plane, then what? How am I going to get home? So I had to go through customs. There was people ahead of me, and I was starting to get very impatient. But I was not going to be rude, but inside me, internally, I was a mess. I was crying, and I'm just like, I wish you would hurry up. I wish you would hurry up. But I wasn't going to say that to the people, because they were taking their sweet old time to get through. And I get through, I run to where I was supposed to go, like literally. I get to my, what do you call it? Where you get the plane. Anyways, I get to my gate. That's it. Thank you. I get to the gate, okay? It's empty. The plane is sitting right there. Doors are closed. I get to the desk, and I said, I'm late, aren't I? They're like, yeah. Like, can you not let me on the plane? They're like, no. I'm like, what? I just literally lost it again. I felt like I was gonna fall down to my knees. I did put my head on their desk, and I'm crying, and I'm like, how am I gonna get home? I was such a mess. So I had to actually stay there. They were able to help me out. They said, don't worry, Mrs. Althouse, we'll get you another flight. We don't know what time. Just go have a seat, and we'll get to you in a few minutes. So I went and had a seat, and I'm just sitting there, and I am such a mess. I'm sure people actually getting to the gate, I looked like I probably was a crazy lady, because I have my carry-on and I'm running, okay? And my carry-on goes sideways, so I'm dragging it behind me because the wheels were crazy, dragging it behind me, trying to get to this gate, and then they tell me that. So I finally sit down, and I just feel like the world is against me. Like, what in the world? How am I gonna get home? So find out I had to wait there 5 hours before I could come home. I get home, I get on a nice big plane. I actually met a really nice lady that day on the plane, so it was all good. I had someone change seats with me, so I got to meet this this lady, so we had great conversations. So sometimes things just happen for that reason, right? Well, if that wasn't a pain in the butt, I was actually traveling with another business partner to another conference. I think this was a year later. And we were leaving Anaheim, and I'm pretty sure it was Anaheim. We had to leave Anaheim, and our flight was delayed in Anaheim. So if we had got on that flight, no, our flight was delayed in Anaheim. So our choices were either to stay there or get on the plane, fly to San Francisco, and possibly miss our plane from there to transfer back over to Toronto. So we decided, well, we either stay here in Anaheim or we take our chances and catch the next plane in San Francisco. Well, we decided to fly over to San Francisco. Guess what? We completely missed our flight. We were landing in San Francisco as our plane was leaving San Francisco. And our next flight was not available to the next morning. So there I am with my business partner, Bridget, and we had to sleep in the San Francisco airport. So needless to say, whenever I travel now, I make sure that I have no layovers in San Francisco. I will pay more money, so I have to avoid that airport. However beautiful it is flying into San Francisco and flying out of San Francisco and having that rush of you going over the water to land before you land is not worth it. So I make sure that when I'm doing my flight itinerary, I make sure there's no layovers in San Francisco or it's a direct flight to where I'm going. Because I just have not had great experiences in San Francisco. That's where I would say my worst place that I've been stuck at for a long time. So hey, if you're just joining me here live, please put in the comments hello and where you're watching from. And I would love to hear a story from you of where is the worst place you were stuck for a long time. So if you're just joining me now, I just answered that question myself, so you'll have to watch the replay. And if you are joining me on the replay, thanks so much. Also put in the comments where you're watching from and answer the questions as we go along, because I always come back and answer the comments, and I also like and answer any questions. So, all right, let's see if any of you shared any stories with me. Oh, no one's sharing stories with me? Oh, come on now. Don't be shy. So Holly says, hello from MD with my keto coffee in hand. Sweet. That's something I did not make mine keto this morning. I had one actually for a afternoon coffee yesterday. Yes, yesterday. And I had made it with, the coffee cream coffee, and then I made it into a keto coffee, so it was awesome. Good morning, Monty. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi, Connie. Hi, Gary. Hey, Alex. So if you're just joining me, just say hello in the comments, and I'm just, sharing, asking you some questions, and then also sharing my response with you as well. So here is another question I want to ask you is, what would be your perfect weekend? Now that we're coming into more of like holiday season, up here in Ontario, weather is changing and it's so beautiful out. People are taking their weekends and doing things now. Not that you didn't do things in the winter and maybe spring, early spring, but now that the weather is turning, it just, creates more creative thoughts on what to do. So what would be your perfect weekend this summer? What would it be? What would be a great weekend for you? So if you're just watching, just share in the comments. What would be the perfect weekend for you and your family, or your best friend, or whatever it is? Share in the comments what would be the best perfect weekend together.
Sorry.
So for me, one of my perfect weekends really is just spending time with my family. I love it when we haven't camped in a while, but that is one of my favorite weekend getaways, is camping. And our favorite spot that we enjoy is in Bancroft. So we like to go to Birch Cliff Lodge. It's somewhere we have always enjoyed. It's on Baptiste Lake, and it is just a really peaceful area. We just enjoy going there. So, I mean, even on weekends when we're looking for something to do and it's just Mark and I, we'll drive up to Bancroft and have a meal up there, and just enjoy the view up there. So that's something that that to me is a perfect weekend. Going for a drive, or camping with my family, or even just attending an event. So right now our Speedway in Brighton is open, so doing stuff like that, going to the Brighton Speedway and enjoying events like that. So those are fun things for me to do, and I consider a perfect weekend. So what about you? What would you consider a perfect weekend? So Kevin says, Dog Butter Tarts Cottage. Right on. Or Stratford, fine dining and plays. That's a great weekend. Well, another thing I would like to say about a perfect weekend for me is, now that Mark and I have a older car, we have a 73 Vet, and it's orange and it's convertible. It's a beautiful car. We just absolutely love going in it. So for me, a perfect weekend is spending a day with Mark in the car and just driving and going to like Picton, to the county, going to dinner at one of the wineries. We've done that a couple times. Just exploring Ontario, going to car shows, stuff like that is a lot of fun for us as well. And unfortunately, last summer we didn't get a chance to do a lot of car shows. And to be honest with you, before we had our old car, I never really attended the car shows, because I wasn't really understanding the passion for it until we had one, and then being around it and understanding and learning about the cars. That was a lot of fun for me. So now for me, it's like, I want to go to more car shows because I want to hear the stories of the car, because we have a story with our car. So, and with a lot of things, the story is what makes things amazing for people. So for our car, it was a car that my husband Mark, he's a landscaper, and his very first customer that he acquired had this car. And he remembers at the time Mark started his business just doing lawn maintenance. So he was maintaining this customer's lawn, and they pulled up in this car, the 73 Vet. And Mark just said to him, Art, I love your car. If you ever decide to sell that car, you let me know. Well, guess what? It was 20 years later to that, not to that day, but 20 years later that Art approached my husband and said, hey, Mark, I remember you telling me years ago that if I were ever to sell this car, you let me know. So here I am. Are you interested? And Mark's like, wow, really? So him and I had a good conversation about it, and we decided that yes, we do want that car. And it was one of the best decisions we had made. And ironically, it was just at a great time in our life where we could actually buy it. So everything just kind of works out. But that's the power of speaking out things that you want in your life, right? It might take 20 years to come to fruition, but when you speak life into your life, great things happen. And that just reminded me of something that I just read this morning. So I'm in the last chapters of my book, Wishes Fulfilled. And he spoke about the power of our subconscious mind and how we go to bed with thoughts in our mind. And this just made more sense to me because people always say, don't go to bed angry, right? And I always wondered why. Because that's happened. Like we all sometimes do that. But what he explained in this one chapter that I'm reading right now is that our subconscious mind clings on to the last thoughts that we had going into bed. So if the last 5 minutes we're reviewing our day and just reviewing the things that did not go well, or that the people that made maybe, us angry that day, or things that we're worried about, or just things that are all negative, and we're thinking those things the last 5 minutes before we fall asleep, our subconscious mind works on that. And then of course the next day just kind of goes on what our subconscious mind was really working on while we were sleeping. So that's why it's so powerful to think positively before going to bed. So instead of reviewing the negative things that went through your day, start thinking of the positive or the things that you would like to happen in your life the next day and see the difference that happens. So why I'm bringing this up is just because of that power of, speaking out what it is you want to happen in your life, like Mark talking to Art, speaking it about the car, and then it coming 20 years later. So sometimes we just think, it should happen right away, right? When we just have to let things happen in progression. So that was pretty cool. So any other answers on that question? And my question is, what would your perfect weekend be? So if you're just joining on, then just drop in the comments what your perfect weekend will be. And would love to hear that from you. And I'd love to come back and share my thoughts on that as well. So let's see, what's another question I can ask you? And I just want to make sure we're not too long. Okay, we're about 15 minutes. All right. So, okay, here's a great question. Where is the most beautiful place near where you live? Okay, so wherever it is you live right now, what is the most beautiful place nearest to you? Okay. Here in Ontario, we have a lot of beautiful places. So because we love to drive, we get to see a lot of that stuff. But around in our community, we have some really incredible places that are just absolutely beautiful that I'm going to share with you. But first, I need to drink some of this coffee because it's getting cold. Speaking of cold, I really wanted to do this outside. And although it's beautiful and it's 18 degrees Celsius here in Ontario, it's really breezy where we are because we have water. The Trent Severn waterway goes through our town and we live on that. So there's always a breeze. And I was really hoping to sit outside and do this with you today because it's so beautiful out, but it's just that much cooler. It was just because of that breeze, it made it cool. So here I am inside. But I can't wait to do more of these outside with you because it's just, I love taking in the day. Okay, so my question was, where is the most beautiful place nearest to you where you live right now? So here where I live in Trent Hills community in the town of Campbellford. So our Trent Hills is made up of Campbellford, Warkworth, and Hastings. So these are three little towns that years ago came together and made Trent Hills. Okay, I'm sure there's other words I could use to make that make more sense. Amalgamide, or as Caleb would call it, they all collided and made one big community. So it's called Trent Hills. So in this community, we have a lot of hills, and we have the Trent Severn Waterway. So that's why they called it Trent Hills. And within that community, we have a provincial park. So we have Ferris Provincial Park. Blech. In that, that was a tongue twister for me. And it's a beautiful place to go and walk and just be very scenic. But attached to the Ferris Provincial Park is what we call our suspension bridge. And we're well known for our suspension bridge. Actually, people come to Campbellford just to go on it. And it's a bridge that's suspended over the water. And it's quite high, and it's made of like cable. So when you're walking on it, you actually see through. So you see the water rushing by. So if things like that make you nervous, you might not want to go on it, but it is really fun to experience because the water's rushing down because there's dams on each side of the waterway in this provincial park. So the water is rushing quite quickly. So then you also see the whirlpools that develop because of it. So it's really a really nice place to go for beauty in our community. And then of course, because we are in rolling hills, even just driving through Trent Hills is beautiful because there is a lot of views. There's one of my favorite views is, if you know my area at all, if you take Highway 30 and you go into, is it Codrington? Well, I'm going to Codrington, I believe, and then there is a road that turns right where their baseball diamond is, and you follow that road and it connects you to go into Warkworth. And why I love this view is because when you come up to one hill, you can see for miles, and it's so beautiful in the fall because you see all the different colors. It's just incredible. I would absolutely love to build a house right there. I'm surprised nobody has. There's a few that are along there. But maybe one day someone will. Maybe we will. I don't know. You never know, right? So that's a beautiful view for me. And then, of course, because we do live around the Canadian Shield, if we just drive 2 hours north of where we live, we get lots of beautiful rock cliffs and the colors in the rocks and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty amazing. So Kevin, although I live in Toronto, I live on the amazing Taylor Creek Ravine, woodland trails, river, birds, deer, and I'm a bike ride away from Lake Ontario, the best of city and county. That is awesome. You know, Kevin, I know you do, you're in real estate, and I know that you do a lot on the beaches, and I have an aunt and uncle that used to live in the beaches, and I remember their house. I was so little when we were there, but I just remember it so much because it was an attached house to another one, and they had a little front porch, and the backyard was like this big, just a little box. But my uncle's dad lived down in the beaches, and it's one of my uncle's favorite places to be. They live in Pickering now, but I know their dream is to maybe move back to the beaches because he just loves it there. His dad had a place there, and his dad passed away just a couple years ago, I believe. So he doesn't get to go to that location as often because I think they had to sell off the house and stuff like that. But I see you bring up listings on the beaches, and I just think of my uncle all the time. It's funny how just certain things bring up certain memories, right? All right, let's see if anybody else. Okay, so actually, you know what? I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I've really enjoyed this and sharing some thoughts with you and some experiences I've had in these questions that I've been asking you. So I'm really excited to see your comments and read your experiences in answering these questions that I've asked. So just a couple updates on what's to come next week. So on Monday is my mom talk, and I'm super excited because I get to interview Julie Owens. Now she lives in my community, And what got us connected was the community garden that she helps plan and organize and bring people together. And once I got to know a little bit more about her, I was like, Julie, we need to get on Facebook Live together and I need to interview you, because not only does she do that for our community, she also works full-time, and she also does a business from home. And she also has an incredible son named Dawson that I can't wait to share a little bit more about him with you as well. So he's been a big part of the community as well. So look out for that on Monday at 11 a.m. for Mom Talk when I interview Julie Owens. So that'll be super excited. So anyhow, hi Ronnie. Greece, is that where you're watching from? Or is that maybe the worst place you were stuck? Or is that the most beautiful place that is nearest to you? Let us know in the comments. Anyhow, that's it for today for a coffee time. I've really enjoyed this time and I look forward to reading your comments, and we'll see you again real soon. My next live will be Monday at 11 a.m. Otherwise, I look forward to connecting with all of you throughout the weekend and next week. So take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. You too, Kevin. Have an awesome weekend. Long weekend. Yes, it's a long weekend. Oh boy. Long weekends and our community equals crazy busy. There's traffic like everywhere. Anyhow, take care, guys. Bye.